Happy Tuesday and welcome back to ELA Tuesday. I'm Megan, if you forgot, and I'm with CIPD, and we're going to be reading another story and focusing on a different reading skill today. Our story that I've picked out today to read is called Anansi the Spider, A Tale from the Ashanti. Now, this book is special because it falls into a different genre of literature that we have not read yet this year, called folktale. And a folktale has some very different criteria when we're looking at this genre of literature. So, a folktale is usually based on traditions and beliefs of a group of people. In this case, the people in the story are from Ghana, where this story originated. Usually, the story teaches a lesson, and it often includes animals to symbolize human qualities. And typically, long ago, these stories were told orally, which means just by out loud via your voice, not necessarily written down in a story. Now we have these folk tales written down in books, so we're going to be able to read that. So the first three types of folk tales I want to go over are fairy tales, fables, and myths. Fairy tales usually have things like once upon a time at the beginning of our story, and often you're going to see magic used in the text or the story. A fable typically has an animal acting like a person, and then it ends with a lesson. The third type of folktale is a myth, and those typically have gods or goddesses in them as their main characters, and it typically is going to explain something that's occurred in nature, like why we have hurricanes, right? It's going to tell a story, and through that, the myth is going to have the god and the goddesses explain why something like that happened in nature. There's two other types of folktales I want to make sure I cover with you today. Legends that are about a person who often lived a long time ago, and typically they talk about their actions or the deeds they accomplished in their story. The last type of folktale I want to cover is a tall tale, and a tall tale usually includes many exaggerations. It also has a main character that's typically trying to solve a problem. So now we're going to be reading our folktale, Anansi the Spider, and we're going to learn a little background information of where this story came from. Let's get started reading. Anansi the Spider, A Tale from the Ashanti by Gerald McDermott. This is important. This is a map in the beginning of our book, and it's showing where Ghana is. And Ghana is a country in Africa. So that's telling me something as a reader, that this is where our stories come from. For my mother and father. Prologue. Folklore, mythology, a people's legends, traditional stories, as in Africa. Mythology transforms, making the ordinary into magical. It brings beauty to the ways of man, giving him dignity and expressing his joy in life. Folklore prepares man for adult life. It places him within his culture. With oral traditions retold through generations, the social group maintains its continuity, holding down its culture. This story is from a long-established culture, the Ashanti of West Africa, in the country of Ghana. Ghana is a green stronghold of dense rainforests between the ocean and the desert. This home of the Ashanti people protect their oral traditions. The Ashanti have had a federation, a highly organized society for over 400 years. Still, today as long ago, the Ashanti are superb artisans. They excel at makers of fine metal work and weavers of beautiful silk fabric. Into this fabric they weave the rich symbols of their art and folklore. Sun, moon, creation, universe, the web of the cosmos, and Anansi, the spider. Anansi is a folk hero to the Ashanti. This funny fellow is a rogue, a wise and lovable trickster. He is shrewd and cunning, who triumphs over larger foes. An animal with human qualities, Anansi is a mischief maker. He tumbles into many troubles. Here is one of his adventures. Anansi, he is Spider to the Ashanti people. In Ashanti land, people love this story of Kwaku Anansi. Time was, Anansi had 6 sons. First son was called Sea Trouble. He had the gift of seeing trouble a long way off. Second son was road builder. Thirsty son was river drinker. Next son was game skinner. Another son was stone thrower. And last of sons was cushion. He was very soft. All were good sons of Anansi. One time, Anansi went a long way from home. Far from home. He got lost. He fell into trouble. Back home was son see trouble. Father is in danger, he cried. He knew it quickly, and he told those other sons. Road builder's son said, "Follow me." Off he went, making a road. They went fast. Those 6 brothers gone to help Anansi. Where is father now? Fish has swallowed him. Anansi is inside fish. River drinker took a big drink. No more river. Then game skinner helped father Anansi. He split open fish. More trouble came right then. It was Falcon who took Anansi up in the sky. Quick now, stone thrower! The stone hit Falcon. Anansi fell through the sky. Now Cushion ran to help father. Very soft, Anansi came down. They were very happy, that spider family. All home again that night, Kawaku and Anansi found a thing in the forest. What is this? A great globe of light? Oh, mysterious and beautiful. I shall give this to my son, said Anansi, to the son who rescued me. But, which son of 6? Which deserves the prize? Niame, can you help me? Oh, Niame, called Anansi. For Ashanti people, Niame is the god of all things. Anansi asked this of Niame. Please hold the beautiful globe of light until I know which son should have it for his own. So they tried to decide which son deserved the prize. They tried, but they couldn't decide. They argued all night. Niame saw this. The god of all things, he took the beautiful white light up into the sky. He keeps it there for all to see. It is still there. It will always be there. It is there tonight. The end. That was an awesome book. So, did you guys notice some of the illustrations? Did you take note of how those add to our story? I want to make sure that we're going back to things that we've learned in previous episodes and we're still applying the text we're reading today. I hope you enjoyed reading this folktale today with me and you learned a little bit about different kinds of folktales. And now when you're reading stories with your teachers or at home with your parents, you can see, wow, this was a folktale. Maybe it's a fable. Maybe it's a legend. And I want you to make note of those things as you're reading different books and looking out for different genres of literature. I hope you enjoyed reading about Anansi with me, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great rest of your day.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
Hello and welcome back to ELA Tuesday for 3rd through 6th grade. My name is Sherry and today we're going to look at character interactions. We've done this before, now we're going to do it a little bit deeper at a level. We're going to look at two characters in the book Pink and Say. We're going to actually look at Pink and we're going to look at Say. So this is Pink, that's a nickname, and this is Say, which is also a nickname. We're going to look at how they interact together and how each character changes based on their interactions together. So Pink and Say. When Sheldon Russell Curtis told this story to his daughter, Rose, she kept every word in her heart and was to retell it many times over her lifetime. Sheldon had been injured in a fierce battle and was left for dead in a muddy, blood-soaked pasture somewhere in Georgia. He was a mere lad of 15 and he lay there for 2 days. By his reckoning, only to slip into unconsciousness and fever on and off throughout the 2 days. He was rescued from the field by another lad who had been separated from his company. I will tell you in my own words, as nearly as I can, said Rosa. I watched the sun edge toward the center of the sky above me. I was hurt real bad. For almost a year, I'd been in this man's war, the war between the states it was. Being just a lad means a young kid, right? I was wishing I was back home. My leg burned and I was angry from the lead ball that was lodged in it just above my knee. I felt sleepy and everything would go black every once in a while. And then I'd wake up again. I wanted to go back to our farm in Ohio, and sometimes when I'd fall into one of those strange sleeps, I'd be there with my ma, tasting baking powder biscuits fresh out of her wood stove. And then I heard a voice. For a moment I thought I was feverish and dreaming, but then I felt strong hands touch my brow and splash water on my face. Being here, boy, means you gotta be dead, the voice said as he gave me a drink from his kit. Where you hit? 'Cause if it's a belly hit, I gotta leave you here, he said. I had never seen a man like him so close before. His skin was the color of polished mahogany, and he was flying Union colors like me, my age maybe. His voice was soothing and his help was good. Hit in the leg, I told him. Not bad if I don't go green. Can you put weight on it? He asked as he pulled me to my feet. We gotta keep moving. If we stay in one spot, marauders will find us. They're riding dragon looking for the wounded. Marauders are soldiers that actually look for people that are on the battlefield hurt, right? Next thing I remember was collapsing in a heap on the ground and rocking with the pain in my leg. Everything started to go black, and then I remember him pulling me on his back. I heard him say, Lord have mercy, child, you are as bad off as I am. I'll tote you, yeah. I can't rightly leave you here. I remember being pulled and carried and stumbling. I remember hard branches snapping back in my face and mouths full of dirt as we hit the ground to keep from being seen. I remember slogging through streams, hauling up small bluffs and belly crawling through dry fields. I remember these things in half sleep-like, but I do remember being carried in a powerful long way. So that's the first interaction, right? The first interaction is that Say saves Pink on the battlefield, right? And carries him off so he's not hurt or caught by the soldiers. You can see that interaction there. Then fever must have took me good because I could feel a cool, sweet-smelling quilt next to my face. Soft, gentle, warm hands were stroking my head with a cool, wet rag cloth. Look at that morning that's coming, a woman's voice said as she spooned oat porridge into me. Do your mama know what a beautiful baby boy she has? Where am I? Is this heaven? I said. She tossed her head and laughed. No, child, Pink has brung you home to me. Don't you remember? The mahogany child, I thought. Both you children been on the run for days, and a miracle of God Almighty brung you both here. Yes, indeed, child, a miracle it did. I remember thinking, could this war have been so close to this lad's home? I couldn't imagine having a war right in his backyard. I looked over and saw him looking out the window light. Guess you don't remember much, he said. I'm Pincus Ali, fought with the 48th Colored. Found you after I got lost from my company. My name is Sheldon Curtis, I said weakly. This is my mother, sweet Momo Bay, he said as she smiled at me. Lord, 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 I had never thought I'd see my dear boy again, she said as she hugged him. I've been getting along though, Pincus. Warm things got left in the big house when the family left. Dry goods too. The rest I've been getting from the woods. There's a freshwater spring down the road. Still have some chickens, even got an old cow out back that still gives milk. Then you've been all alone here? Pincus asked his mother. Where is everybody? Your daddy runned off to fight a month ago. All the hands and their children runned off and out of harm's way. But I stayed. I prayed to the Lord every day. I said I couldn't go away until I ain't gonna leave until my Pincus comes home. You ain't never gonna leave your mama again, are you, child? Pincus looked troubled and didn't answer. I'm going down to the stream and pound these clothes of yours, she said as she readied to leave us. If you hear marauders, come and get for the root cellar door and stay down there till they gone. That's what I've been doing. Marauders here? Pincus said with alarm. They've seen there's nothing here for them, child. Nothing. As soon as she left us, Pincus sank to my bedside. And here's going to be another interaction, right? You know that because the author writes, as soon as she left us, Pincus sank to my bedside. So you know the characters are going to interact together. Sheldon boy, he whispered, as soon as you heal up, we got to go away from here. We are putting Momo Bay in great danger just by being here in her house. If they come and find us that she's been holding troopers, his voice trailed off. We got to get back to our outfits if we can find them. You mean back to the war? I asked. I must have gone pale as he went on to say, it's the only way, ain't it? And then he looked at me. Sheldon, you all right? You look bothered. You can call me Say. Everybody in my family calls me Say, not Sheldon. I expect you're my family now. Near enough, Say. Near enough. You can call me Pink. That's what everybody calls me, he said softly as he smiled. So now that's an interaction where they're getting to know more about each other and they're actually sharing their nicknames, which shows that they're getting close. The characters are getting close to each other, right? Because only somebody close to you calls you by your nickname. For the next week, Momo Bay fed us both up good. Raw milk and cornbread never tasted so good in all my born days. It were the first time in months my victuals didn't have any mealy worms in it. She saw to it that I tried to walk a little every day. So's that mean-looking leg don't go stiff on you and cripple up, she'd say. This place wasn't that much different from our farmhouse in Ohio. Maybe poor, maybe. But it smelled the same, like pine boards and good cooking. A mess of beans with salt pork and cornbread and greens and corn and onions. And when we slept, she sat near us, stoked the fire, and watched over us. Whew, never thought I'd feel safe enough to sleep deep again. My mother and Kalo, my father, jumped the broom on this very spot, Pink said as he walked me back on my first day outdoors. And that there was the master's house. Master Ali, Pink said. How come you have his last name, I asked. Boy, when you're owned, you ain't got no name of your own. Even Kalo had to take that name. As we rested under the willow tree, Pink asked me about my family back home. See the interaction between the two? They're getting to know more about each other. Got one brother still at home to help run the place for Pa, I answered. What was your outfit again? The Ohio 24th, I carried the staff. Wasn't supposed to carry a gun, but then so many died, even us boys had to carry after so many were slaughtered like hogs. Least you got to carry. In the 48th, we couldn't have guns at first. We fought with sticks and hammers and sledges. Can you imagine not trusting us with our own fight? This here's our fight. I couldn't imagine such a thing. And then when they finally did give us muskets, they were from the Mexican-American War, so they were old. Those muskets jammed and misfired all the time. Then how in God's name can you want to go back, I asked. Because it's my fight. Say, it's my fight. Ain't it yours too? If we don't fight, then who's going to? I had no answer for him, but God forgive him, I didn't want to ever go back. After a few more days, I could walk a little steadier, but still needed some help. Pink took me out by the big house and walked me through it. Master Ali had a library full of books right here. He taught me to read, even though it was against the law. He must have been a good man, I said. More bad than good, Say. Sometimes I think he just liked being read to. There was this book of poetry, Say, that was this thick. Every night I'd read out loud to him from that book. I blessed this house because of all those beautiful books, but I cursed it too for what it stood for. We walked a bit further. To be a slave is a heap of trouble, Say, but after Ali taught me to read, even though he owned my person, I knew that nobody ever could really own me again. You feel hot, Pink. Lord, I think you're as sick as me. Let me fetch you back to the house. I'll be fine, boy. Just a little tired, that's all. I'll be ready to fight, though. I'll be ready to fight soon. That night, After we ate, Momo Bay came back to the table with a worn-out Bible. She was so happy my heart ached. Master Ali showed me how paper talks. Show him, Pink, she said. He took out a pair of spectacles from his pocket and opened the Bible to the Psalms of David and started to read. His voice was steady and had such wonder in it. Just hearing them words made pictures form in my mind. I surely do wish I could read, I announced to them without thinking. When Pink saw I was ashamed, he took my hand. I'll teach you, Say. Some one day I'll teach you. I could feel my face flushing up, and then I spoke up. I'd done something important. Of course you have, child. Of course you have, his mother said. I touched Mr. Lincoln's hand. It was near Washington. We were quartered there just before the Bull Run fight. The president himself was shaking people's hands. And I just put my hand right out, and he took it. He took it and shook it. Pink answered. Yep, he took it. Now there's a sign, ain't it? He said, smiling broadly. Touch my hand, Pink. Now you can say you touched the hand that shook the hand of Abraham Lincoln. Next best thing to touching him myself. Most of the next day, Pink was studying an old map. Marauders don't fan out farther than 30 miles or so from their camps, and if they come back here, then their units must be that close. We got to get south of the river, Say here. See here, Say. We got to get south of the river. That's where the troops are headed. We can meet up with them about here, I suppose. Meet up with who? You ain't leaving, his mother's voice caught. Now, my mother, you knew we couldn't stay here. It's dangerous. You had to know that. No, my babies, my dear babies, you got to stay. She was inconsolable for a minute. Mother, this war has to be won, or this sickness that has taken my land is going to never stop. We have to go. By the look that came into her eyes, she'd known that this day was coming. I could feel my breath catching, my chest heavy. I really didn't want to go back. That night I couldn't sleep. What's wrong, child? Momo Bay said. I don't want to go back, I blurted out. I know, child. Of course you don't. You don't understand. I took up and run away from my unit. I was hit when I was running. I'm a coward and a deserter. She looked at the fire and said nothing for the longest time. You ain't nothing of the kind. You is a child. A child, I say. Of course you're scared. Ain't nobody that ain't. I'm not brave like Pink. I'm not brave. Child, being brave don't mean you're not afeared. Don't you know that? I didn't want to die. These things worse than death, child, but you got nothing to fear. You are here now, and I'm hugging you up. You're going to be an old man someday. When it's your time, the sweet Lord will send a hummingbird to fly your soul to heaven. Now, you ain't afeared of hummingbirds, are you? Her words brought me to a sweet sleep. The next morning, marauders came. Just as we were making the last sweep of the place, making sure there were no signs of us ever being there, we heard wild screams. Marauders! Get to the root cellar! Said Momo Bay. They ain't no truck with the old dark woman. You get to the cellar, you hear? Hurry before they're here. Don't come out till I tell you so. We heard the porch steps creak as she ran from the cabin. She's drawn them off, Pink whispered. Uh-oh. Look what happened. We put her in their way by staying here. Now she's dead, Pink cried as he rocked her in his arms. Her eyes were looking in a faraway place as he closed them. Your son loves you, Momo Bay. Your son loves you. After we buried her under the willow tree, we set out. Pink figured we were there for 3 days' walk from the Union troops, and we watched the movement of the sun. I'm going to stop there. If you're interested in finishing some more, the book is called Pink and Say. You can get it at your local library. But let's talk about the interactions between Pink and Say, right? So you notice how each interaction brought them closer to the point where they're almost brothers, right? Each interaction, when they shared a little bit more of each other, they got closer and closer. That's how characters develop together. Pink and Say. See you next time.
Southeast because of the culture, the band program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not alike. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast. Southeast. We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
I chose manual because it's challenging and fun and it can help me with college.
I chose manual because I wanted to get a jump start in my career with culinary arts.
I chose manual to acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to another edition of KCPS Homeroom. I'm your teacher host guy for the day. My name is Chris Odom. I'm ELA coordinator for Kansas City Public Schools, and we're going to explore this academic vocabulary here today on KCPS Homeroom. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is identify our text. It's going to be Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Let's jump right in and hear a quote by him. It says, "I was a curious boy, but the schools were not concerned with curiosity. They were concerned with compliance." As early as this morning, we were hearing a student panel, and this word compliance was even mentioned as a word that wasn't so enjoyable to hear in our own student code of conduct. Very easy word for someone to pick out that wasn't really sound like a great goal, even for a student to notice that. That's just, it probably is obvious, and anything is you can imagine that we should all notice as adults as well. So, boy, sometimes we forget what just might really just not sound like what we're supposed to do. I love that quote for that reason, and it's good to read. Great readers do a lot of revisiting thinking and a lot of choosing what they believe. So the sponge you'll see up here, I'm going to give you a clue, has something to do with our presentation today. Think about what a sponge might have to do with your own vocabulary. Okay, this author is fantastic. Ta-Nehisi Coates is an American essayist, journalist, and writer. And again, the National Book Award winner. When you see a book like this that has that sticker on there, we've been featuring a couple of those here on ELA Tuesday. All right, the book is called Between the World and Me. It came out in 2015. And so today we're going to use it to look at academic vocabulary. We're going to work on some ideas on how we might grow our own. Hear a text, this one, read out loud a little bit, a really powerful passage that I'm going to read for you. And then we're going to listen and maybe list, while we're listening, some words we hear that we would call examples of academic vocabulary. And then again, we're going to try to translate all that into a guess at the author's purpose of the passage I'm reading. Okay, academic vocabulary are the words that you traditionally use when you have scholarly or academic dialogue or something you write down in the form of text. So it's not the conversational words we use in the other kind of text, that we do. Instead, this academic vocabulary is really something that we borrow and listen and take in from places that it's necessary, mainly school, scholarly situations. Sometimes there's a different academic vocabulary to different businesses and different work areas, and something that would just become kind of familiar territory. So unless you've been exposed to this academic vocabulary, then it's really not going to build itself without a little bit of work. And that's where you come in, is you are this sponge. You have this ability to find chances to soak up things, and then later down the road in some forms of writing and definitely speaking in front of other people on various topics that you have read and given great thought, you'll find that there is your academic vocabulary for you. Initially, when we're working on getting this process started in our own faith and our own thinking, and operating in this language, we use something called sentence frames. We're going to look at a couple of examples of those today. And again, we might start off just by listening and think of all the great podcasts and things you have at your fingertips sometimes that you might choose to work toward some of these goals yourself. TED Talks are just loaded with chances to absorb great thinkers. All right, so discussing with friends and family is a way to make this more active and digest things and soak them up, right? And then squeeze them out and kind of have that challenge of maybe this time when we're sitting around talking about something, let's see what happens if we show our own academic vocabulary. If you practice this in class, right, then again, people are going to borrow some of your skills, and you're going to trade those with others that in ways that you've absorbed them from other people. Okay, so if you read complex text, and if you start to read like a writer, what if you had written this? Would you have chosen the same word choice? Sentence frames, we said, are a chance to really practice writing in a way that will require you to say things in manners that you don't always in just everyday conversation. For example, entering into a sentence something with saying according to, between the world and me, or according to the author sometimes, and then you just use the author's last name, according to Coates, right? And then we'd put a great quote in there. Again, no one really walks around speaking in this everyday vocabulary and kind of this phrasing that we can start to absorb and take in, and then it starts to reflect itself in the way we read other writers, and then the way that we write based on those readings that we start to do. Okay, so again, can you see some words here that you probably don't use every day when you're speaking or working through your day-to-day life, unless you're in a situation that might require them. But these are big words that we can unpack that have a lot of use and a lot of purpose in a lot of subjects other than just English class that here we are on ELA Tuesday. One of my favorites of all time that was an example probably given to me of academic language back when I was in 11th grade was the word delve. And just to put it on the wall, I think even then was with chalk, and can remember seeing it. That doesn't seem like a word to me. That just, where'd that come from, and how does it take on all of this? It has a pretty cool deep meaning, right? Which means to go into something kind of like you would with a shovel, and to delve into it. So she would encourage us to delve into topics, delve into our thinking, right? And then just that process, really, that is the academic vocabulary that even gave me instructions on what kind of process I should follow for my thinking. And really appreciated that word, because I think that was the clearest word I could have about what my goal was when I was doing writing or reading, specifically for a task a teacher had set out for me. I was to delve into it, right? I could explain that to other people now because it was so useful to me then. That's the absorbing part of this academic vocabulary. Okay, so I'm going to read one pretty good page here in this book, and there are so many of these pretty good pages and just beautiful writing that I would encourage you to take a look at this book yourself if you get an opportunity. This book, I will tell you, is framed in the way that it's written to his 15-year-old son, and the title, Between the World and Me, has some special significance that I would let you discover as you read the book yourself. Okay, so here we are. I write you in your 15th year. I am writing you because this was the year you saw Eric Garner choked to death for selling cigarettes, because you know now that Renisha McBride was shot for seeking help, that John Crawford was shot down for browsing in a department store, and you have seen men in uniform drive by and murder Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old child whom they were oath-bound to protect. And you have seen men in the same uniforms pummel Marlene Pinnock, someone's grandmother, on the side of a road. And you know now, if you did not know before, that the police departments of your country have been endowed with the authority to destroy your body. It does not matter if the destruction is the result of an unfortunate overreaction. It does not matter if it originates in a misunderstanding. It does not matter if the destruction springs from a foolish policy. Sell cigarettes without the proper authority, and your body can be destroyed. Resent the people trying to entrap your body, and it can be destroyed. The destroyers will rarely be held accountable. Mostly they will receive pensions, and destruction is merely the superlative form of a dominion whose prerogatives include friskings, detainings, beatings, and humiliations. All of this is common to black people, and all of this is old for black people. No one is held responsible. There is nothing uniquely evil in these destroyers or even in this moment. The destroyers are merely men enforcing the whims of our country, correctly interpreting its heritage and legacy. It is hard to face this, but all our phrasing, race relations, racial chasm, racial justice, racial profiling, white privilege, even white supremacy, serves to obscure that racism is a visceral experience, that it dislodges brains, blocks airways, rips muscle, extracts organs, cracks bones, breaks teeth. You must never look away from this. You must always remember that the sociology, the history, the economics, the graphs, the charts, the regressions, all land with great violence upon the body. Okay, so did you hear some words and make a little list that you might consider academic vocabulary? And let's go to this next slide and call it the pick it and prove it task. And that's a little bit of alliteration there. It makes it a little cooler when you do it, right? So just please pick it and prove it, and pick 3 words and explain what they have to do with the overall meaning of this little reading selection. And if you were just grabbing them out of the air, because certainly that makes it more challenging, I just wish I could hand you this book and you could say, oh, here they are. But let me do something for you and just throw around a chance for you to hear some of the words that we might hear, like the word pummel. If we might hear the word endowed, authority, we see the word destruction, unfortunate. We hear the word authority again. We hear the word entrap. We hear the word destroyed. We hear pensions, dominion, prerogatives, detainings, beatings, humiliations. The language in this second page, reading it, you can just feel it kind of building. But this list, right, this word visceral, this word supremacy and privilege, chasm, again, words that if we are not quite sure about their meaning, it's probably because, again, I don't walk around talking about chasms every day. And you have every right to then say, whoo, what does that mean? That is an interesting word, but I don't think I know what it is, right? And when you discover what a chasm is, and in this case, not just a chasm, but a racial chasm, that's C-H-A-S-M, then you really discover something about separation, right? And division, and just the meaning of a word that to you might seem unknown and something you don't use every day. Okay, so as you go about and you're out ready to go read and do some more thinking yourself, I want you to find another paragraph like the one that I modeled for you today. And again, sort it out and look for some of the words you consider to be academic vocabulary. And then do your own pick 3 and see if you could tell me which of the 3 words you think really is central to the overall meaning. And just keep thinking about it. Why did you select those words? How did they have something to do with the overall purpose of the text? And then, was it clear to you the purpose of the text once you really concentrated on the words? In some ways, I think a great author is doing more than one thing with their purpose. Do you think this was an example? Did you hear really beautiful writing in some ways that might even entertain surrounding such an informative piece, just loaded with detail and information about people and their lives, but also in the combination of those 2 elements, you can hear how they might multiply, times each other in some way, and become persuasive or a call to action and make people feel a need for justice and a need to pay other due respect to something they may not have thought of the same way before. So really magic chances to see how academic vocabulary opens up thinking and ways of discussion that everyone needs to be a part of. So let's go on and just concentrate on your own ability from here with this idea of growing your academic vocabulary. And let's go out on this quote, because I think it's one of the coolest quotes that I've found in a while. And I hope you've had a great time with us this morning on ELA Tuesday, working on academic vocabulary and featuring the wonderful work of Ta-Nehisi Coates, Between the World and Me. Have a great Tuesday. Bye.
The desire to create lives within each of us. From Grammy-winning producers and musicians, to NBA stars, to Navy admirals and Medal of Honor recipients, to internationally renowned artists and beloved local muralists, Paseo graduates have been creating their own success, their own history, their own legacy since 1926. Now it's your time. Create your future at Paseo Academy of Fine and Performing Arts. Learn more at enrollkc.org/Paseo.
I love Southeast because of the culture, the bank program, and restorative justice.
I love Southeast because of the academics, sports, and students.
I love Southeast because of the people, the energy, and the advanced classes.
It's not a like. I love Southeast because the students here at Southeast are full of potential and they believe in achieving anything. We are Southeast. Southeast. We stand shoulder to shoulder.
Join the Southeast family. Enroll today.
Good morning, Kansas City, and welcome to another edition of KCPS Homeroom. I am your host this morning for ELA Tuesday, Chris Odom. Today I'm talking with another of my prior students from many years ago, Corwin Albers. I put out a query out there on one of those social media sites, and some people wrote back to me and said they'd like to come in and talk. Corwin initially thought he wasn't going to be able to tell us his story because he wasn't creative writing anymore. And we talked, and I talked with him about how I think he still does an awful lot of writing from what he's shown me. And that what's exciting is that students who started a path in creative writing all have to have jobs, and they're not necessarily all going to be creative writers. I think they knew that. I think we knew that. But I think it was a really cool chance working with Corwin and everybody else throughout the years I did to really get a start in figuring out what your interests are and building a skill set that you may be surprised to use later. So we're going to talk to Corwin a little bit about that. In fact, I'm going to turn it right over to him, and he's going to give us a little update. What year did you graduate, Paseo, sir?
2005.
Wow, that's so neat. And it is not exactly just yesterday. So
no.
Tell us what's been going on with you in about the last 15 years.
Yeah. Pretty much right after high school, and I rolled right into college. Didn't take a year off or anything. I'm sure you see like a lot of people probably over the years, there's a lot of distractions that can happen in between that year off that you have that momentum from walking that stage, and then you just get distracted with life. So I decided kind of just is a life goal that I wasn't going to do that. So I pretty much graduated I think in May, and in the fall semester I was enrolled. I went to DeVry here in town. The location off of Red Bridge. It started out with the 4-year degree there. Ran into some funding issues. It was going all. I didn't have a ton of money going into it. Did a lot of federal student loans to bankroll that, and then a lot of stuff changed on that, probably for the better. Politicians decided that probably wasn't great to let people go endlessly in debt, into student loan debt in college, because a lot of people were getting a lot of degrees that didn't make a lot of sense. You weren't ever going to be able to pay those loans back. So they changed kind of the structure on that, like in, I want to say like 2006, 2007 on that. But I actually finished my 2-year degree there, which is fine. Spent a lot less money. Worked out for the best. Was able to parlay that pretty quickly into a job in the field. Actually ended up working at a school briefly. Worked at Genesis Promise Academy for about a year. Was a support technician / systems administrator for about a year there. Rolled from that to a company in town called NCM. They were car dealership company, still around on the plaza. With the systems administrator, help desk position with them for about 3 years. Rolled into another gig. Honeywell was at the Honeywell location, the federal manufacturing facility. Was a systems administrator there for about 3-4 years. Then roll that into my current gig, where I'm at now, where I am started off as a systems engineer, a little bit more. Other jobs before were more network, Windows focused. This was more broad systems administration, infrastructure, cloud focus. Everything's, it sounds weird term now, but basically non-localized data centers. Go where you think of cloud, usually hosted by some provider, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Azure, something like that. Did a lot of cloud administration with them. Still a strong Windows background. I actually just recently switched roles with them. Still with the company, still a technical role, and I'm a technical lead for our main endpoints, so more like the desktop endpoints people use, kind of the infrastructure behind the scenes on that and the management of that, and then lead a small team with that. It's the first time in a management role, so it's been a new kind of exciting piece. So still doing the technical portion of it, and then leading people to be better technicians themselves. So that's kind of in a nutshell where I'm at.
That's really good and well summarized. Well, took us through all your steps and jumps and moves, and that's really, man. I think I'm searching for a word. Fortuitous. Like each step you took was for another reason or another beneficial goal. Like you kind of made good on the fact that you didn't even take a summer off, right? You just
just keep that momentum. It's kind of, she mentioned that. A lot of people I know, even when I get a new job, switch positions, most people take their vacation and wait 2 or 3 weeks in between. If I'm starting at a place Monday, I'm usually walking out the door Friday. Not that I don't give my 2 weeks. I give my 2 weeks, but I usually just work up till I'm done and then just start the next gig over. You lose a lot of steam.
I was trying to remember what I would have guessed for you, back in school, and but that's not for us to do. But we all probably do. What would you go off and do? What did you guess you would go do?
Actually, funny. I was looking back through some of my old stuff. You remember the Daily Journal? I don't know if you still do the Daily Journal or not.
Well, actually, I don't teach anymore. I work.
You don't?
No, I work with the whole district, though.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, you're moving up too. Yeah, that's
yeah. So I'm talking to all English teachers basically and helping them, and
awesome.
Through them I get to still get exposed directly to students, but not as much as I used to. So it helps me remember. Gosh, that's the best part of all that we do, as teachers, is the connections and the in classroom experiences. So you realize it is even more when they're different now. So I work a lot more. Like you're saying, paperwork and things of that nature.
Yep.
But the passion's still in the paperwork, right?
It is. No, there's somebody's got to do it, and hopefully, if the person doing it doesn't have the passion, it's going to show in everybody that has to read it and execute that plan. So it's probably good to definitely have your experience in there to help them make those plans.
So you were saying you were looking in your own journal that you still have?
The old daily journal, I don't remember. I don't even remember or not. It used to have us do it. It was the kind of heads up assignment when you came in. It'd be on the board, it'd be a topic,
right.
And one of them was where do you kind of see yourself? Career path wise. God, it must have been 10th grade for me. I remember putting in it one time, just being kind of snarky, hey, you remember how it was. Nobody's super excited to sit down and start working, when you come in,
sure.
in the hallways. But I remember putting in there someday I'm just going to be, a guy just sitting in the basement somewhere resetting people's passwords. So pretty close.
That's really cool. But no, I think the drive is evident, man. Super respect that. My parents dropped me off when I was 15 and a half and eligible to get a job at the grocery store and said, walk home.
Yeah. You need that kick in the pants and sometimes,
And we hope you got it. And really, I'm the same way. I haven't let myself not be employed since, and that's a long time ago. And what I would encourage people to do, even at whatever it is, but just keep a toe in the revenue and the water and the stream and whatever. And so that's really cool. I'm proud of you, man. It seems like you really put a lot together that still pays off. Like you can probably keep advancing yourself in this field too, right?
Oh, definitely, yeah. And kind of some of the other work I do, like about 4 years ago, I got involved with a organization that I volunteer with here in town, the Boys Learning Center. Always plug them. If I'm ever talking to anybody there, they do a lot of. They started off originally like a math tutoring facility for it's kind of like at-risk youth, kind of like people that kind of need a little extra help, maybe with it, weren't getting it, potentially in the school districts, just for whatever reason, we didn't have a support system at home. But then that, years prior, another guy, Harrison May, who runs the technical program, he started the technical program for the boys. I got involved with him about 3 years ago coming on. So that's been a great for me to work on some stuff for them and maybe some other environments that I didn't get to work on, professionally. Because every computer system, everything you touch is always going to be different. So that's I guess, piece of recommendation I'd always throw out there. Like, if you can't always find maybe the exact work you want to do, or for something you're interested in, if you have talents, you can go out there and you find places like that where you can go, and it just gives you another way to kind of exercise that muscle. I do some stuff Monday through Friday, and then I'll go on the weekends with them. I get to do other stuff, and I get to see other environments and other people and other problems, and just keep working at it.
Oh, well, that's really awesome, Corwin. Thanks for your inspiring story. I'm serious. It's really cool to hear you. And I don't mean to laugh, but I kind of did when you were telling me you're not a writer. Will you show them? Share your screen for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of writing really looks like in your world these days?
Up here.
And I'd say you're definitely a writer, man. Like, that's another language.
The language is actually PowerShell.
It's pretty cool. So that's considered coding then?
Yeah, this is type of it. So, you get too super nerdy. It's an object-oriented language called PowerShell. It essentially is a command line interface for .NET, which is basically what all Windows computers are ran on. So, like, this particular piece is connecting to a SharePoint site, and then searching. It's a function. So basically, you build a set of commands, and you basically tell it to just do something. It's kind of like a workhorse. Once you build a function, this is the actual function name here, and this tells the function how to actually behave. This is it, like connecting to SharePoint, basically calling in a portion of SharePoint, and then at the end of it, we invoke the function. You tell it, hey, where you're actually going to connect to in SharePoint to do the thing, and then what I'm specifically doing on this piece here, we're looking for a user, and we're looking to see what their preferred name attribute is in the schema inside the tenant in SharePoint. So, yeah, a lot of people think Windows work, and they think just desktop work, but Windows touches a lot of stuff. Like SharePoint, SQL, Office, Exchange, Outlook.
I don't
a lot
know.
of stuff.
I don't know if you hear yourself being the non-writer that you say. All that language and vocabulary that's just pouring out of you. It's like, it's so awesome, man. That is definitely with you. Like, I don't know if you took that away from school or not, but I know it's there. So I'm excited to see you use it and how you can lead meetings and interact with people. And, you could probably train people on these types of things. So I do think you have more language skill than you give yourself credit for, and you're calling yourself not a writer. So I appreciate you so much for being on here. And again, if you're wondering yourself, how do I be part of this show? This is KCPS Homeroom on ELA Tuesday on 38th the Spot. And I had the idea to start asking for students of the past and students of the present to come on and talk about things they may do or the path that they may be taking, and how they found it, so that other people could also see paths out there and feel like that there's some options and could stay inspired and excited about their futures. So every time I do one of these, Corwin, and you're no different, like, man, it's so fulfilling. I think teachers should probably make a point to do this. To be honest, I was so moved every time we did a new senior class that it was like ripping a part of you away, that it was hard to want to reach out. I did that for 16 senior classes, actually. So it was wild. And it's so fun to reunite a little bit and hear about everybody's success. So thanks for being on here.
Yeah, no problem.
If you want to tell a young person one final thing, what would you shout out to them on this ELA Tuesday morning?
I think, like everything you do, you just gotta find, what kind of work, whatever you're passionate about. It kind of comes off, old ad. I hear it a lot. Like, if you do what you love, you're not gonna work a day in your life. Like, you're still gonna work. I'm not gonna say it's not gonna be work, but the work is gonna be a lot more fulfilling. I've definitely had different roles and different gigs. Not everything I did was IT. Going straight out of it, I worked at Best Buy, Geek Squad forever. It was like IT adjacent. While I was in college, like, it wasn't great all the time, but it got me that experience to get more skills and just keep building on it. So yeah, just find the things you're passionate on and just like lay the foundation, and then you're going to use that foundation to just build really the life that you're gonna live. So yeah, just make sure you're building that foundation about something you're passionate about. Oh, I think you're on mute this time.
I had to do it at least once, right? Right. So thanks so much, Corwin. It's been wonderful. Look forward to hearing more from you. Have a great life. Adios.
Yeah.
Kindergarten is great at Kansas City Public Schools.
I know they have really good teachers. I know this is a great school.
They teach them stuff that I thought my kids would never be able to know at the age of 5.
Since deciding to send our kiddos to a neighborhood school, we've become even more of a part of our community.
Now is the time to enroll your future kindergartner for the new school year. Visit enrollkc.org today.